fabulous brother educators.
And Happy New Year, everybody.
Good morning, everyone.
Where were you on the night of July 31st, 19? No.
Well, I can't guarantee there'll be all of us together, right? But maybe. Hello, Brother Sewing and Crafting family. I'm Angela Wolf, and welcome to At Your Side Virtually. Oh my gosh, we have such a fun show today. So a little bit of twist of events. As you know, Laura and I were doing a refashioning event, which I still have my sweater here, but Laura's little boy had a little arm accident. I think it was an arm, a broken arm. So unfortunately, she had to go for x-rays. But guess what? Even better, we got Joanne today, and we're going to talk about embroidery, some tips for embroidery, and I'm going to start my refashion sweater to get started on that, and then I'll finish it when Laura comes on. How's that? So I need some ideas anyways, and so this might be fun with Joanne because she's always creative, and this fabric I love. I just hate the sweater. So welcome everyone. Say hi, say where you're from. We are live on Brother Sews and Brother Crafting Facebook and YouTube pages, and we're very excited to be here. Both of us are brand ambassadors for Brothers, so let's bring up Joanne. Hey, Joanne, how are you?
Hey, everybody. So good to see you.
Nice to see you, too. Usually it's you and I hanging out on Saturdays watching the replays of It's So Easy.
That's been fun, though. That's been a lot of fun.
Yes.
Watching those old, well, not old shows, but watching shows that we've done so long ago that we've like completely forgotten. I'm looking at it, like, what did I do there?
Yeah, or it'll be something that I look and go, oh my gosh, I don't think I ever launched that pattern. I went on to something else.
Yep, you start looking for your samples and whatever happened to that? I had that great idea way back then, and then another one came in its place.
Absolutely. So I got a couple of funnies. Oh, hey, Reen, great to see you. Hey, I have to say, Laura and I were going to work on this refashion project, and it's kind of fun that you're on here today because I needed some ideas for two things. One, okay. The shirt I'm wearing has no sleeves. That is so not proper English, but I left the sleeves off. In fact, it's raw edges, but it's a knit, so it won't fray. But I love this top, and I cannot decide if I'm going to add a solid color, leave it a tank, or go ahead and have leopard, or it's actually snakeskin, something like that, all over. What do you think?
I vote for actually, I mean, you look so great in those tank tops. They're kind of almost your signature style. I probably would vote for leaving it as is, but
that's faster. You know why, Joanne? I mean, it's like so cold outside, but I end up running all over my studio before these live shows that I'm like dying. And I had on a really cute sweater, but by the time I go to the live show, I've got like half my clothes are over here. And I'm like, okay, I gotta take top. Yes, I'm not gonna pass out.
I hear you. We had Jack Frost visited this morning, so it was all, and I felt so cold when I woke up, but after I started scrambling around to get everything ready, I'm the same thing. I'm like,
tank top is going to be the new Zoom outfit. So Joanne, today I thought I would start my project, and you can give some ideas on that, but you have some great things that you're going to be sharing as well, and it's going to be embroidery. We're going to be showing what's up on the new blog for Brother. Do you want to give a little tips for what you're going to be talking about?
Sure. We got a whole little, we got something for everybody today. So we're going to talk a little bit embroidery, some embroidery tips, show free design, and a little bit of stitching tips too, because there's a new post that just came up on the Brother blog this morning that I would love to talk about. So something for everybody today.
I just have a quick preview of that too for you guys, so you know what's going to happen. So we're giving you everything, so you'll know what to expect today. Oh, these are really cute. Are you talking about that little baby bear?
The baby bib. Yep, that's the little bear is the free design. It's probably one of the cutest designs I think they've ever done in the collection of children's designs. It's just like perfect. You know, it's perfect. It looks like you could say so many different things with that. Feed me, give me a hug, I love you, all kinds of different things. So we'll talk a little bit about lettering today. I know it looks really simple. When you do a project like that, you take a picture and you post it, you look at it and you go like, oh, what is there to all that? But get into the nitty gritty, and I always try to build in some tips and give you some ideas for how you can really dig into the goodies that are inside your Brother machine.
Nice. And then I also see this guide foot, which we'll be talking about that as well. It looks kind of like for anybody who hasn't seen that, it looks a little bit different.
Well, I love highlighting the feet, because the ones that come with the machine, or the ones that are sold separately, a lot of times there really aren't a lot of instructions on them. So I love to be able to, photograph them doing exactly what they're meant to do, and then talk about it. So
Awesome. Well, all right. So before we get into that, oops, I didn't mean to get rid of you. Come back. I removed the wrong thing. All right. So before we get started, I'm going to start with this sweater. So Joanne, I need some help. And you all can pitch in too, because I can read your comments. So I have this sweater, and I've had it for here. I'll just bring, let me just bring this up like this so you can see the sweater. I've had this sweater, honestly, I think since the 80s. And this fabric is so back in style this year. In fact, I had to dig through some major archive boxes to even find this. Okay, so here's the thing. It's from the 80s, which is still kind of in style, but it's hot. It's really high on my neck. The sleeves are way too short. I mean, that probably was the style then, but I can't stand short sleeves. If I'm going to wear a sleeve, it's got to be either a sleeve or no sleeve. Yeah. I'm not like the big, and it's just like unfitted, but the fabric's beautiful. So I have some ideas, and I'm going to take you over here and get your advice. So here you go. Let me just make sure that I've got my mics on so you can hear me. All right, you can see that okay? Mm-hmm. Great. All right, so you guys are going to think I'm crazy, but I'm going to start this whole project. First, when I go to restyle, I kind of analyze what this looks like. You can see this now a little bit wider. Move this over. I was teaching all weekend for the virtual expo, and now it's kind of like cleanup in all the aisles. So there's a couple of things on this sweater that I don't want to lose. First of all, the hem. I love that it's like a knitted hem finish. I really don't want to lose that.
Yeah.
On the sleeves, I love this part too for the sleeves. I just don't like the sleeves. And it's all too big through here. So.
Does it have raglan sleeves? Is it raglan, or are they set in?
No, they're set in.
Okay.
So I'm just going to cut off the label first. And in here, I wasn't sure if it was actually knitted, because then you have a few little issues. Because if you cut the wrong thing, you could end up with like a pile of yarn.
Yep.
This is actually knitted, and it's sewn. That's a serged edge, so it is sewn in. The fabric doesn't really have a stretch, but it's such a loose weave that it does. So I'm thinking I'm going to go all out here. I'm starting by cutting the sleeves off. I'm just going to, no sense in even waiting with those, because I know they're coming off. I might use them still. So I'm cutting with my ginormous scissors.
Chop, chop.
Right along the seam. And by the way, if you do this at home, be cautioned, because if I start pulling this knit will come unwoven. So I want to be very careful not to pull the sweater too much now, and just see what this looks like. I might just have a sweater tank top. Isn't that what you said my signature is now?
Yep. Hey, we got Sharon on here thinks she had the same sweater. Isn't that a riot?
Hey, Sharon, good taste. I know. When I was going through some of the catalogs during the holidays, I was like, I know I have this sweater somewhere, and I just found it.
And Anne says, cut it up the middle and make a cardigan. That was my first thought.
I was thinking that too. You guys have great minds. I think all of our great minds think alike. That's what I was thinking. But I can't cut up the front unless I have some stabilizer on there. So,
yep.
All right. So this is what I have now.
Oh, that looks pretty already.
Yeah, it's way better. So just a quick look at what these sleeves would look like.
Shirley says you're brave.
See how short these were? It's so unflattering on me. But, it probably would have been kind of comfortable. But the sweater was so big, I just didn't like it. So I could technically keep this part of the sweater, maybe cut it off here, and add like a mesh with some embroidery on the end of that. So then I have a sleeve, but then turn this more into like maybe a sweatshirt with a bell, like my Bella top. Hey, yeah. How about this, Joanne? is kind of loose with some elastic, which I could do the same thing with this.
Karina,
And then
they
maybe-
could use them as leg warmers.
Oh, you're so bad. You're so right. It would work too. So, okay, I think I'm going to save this. I like the vest style. And so now if I take this, I'll just hold it up. I can put it on my dress form, but I'll hold it. See, you can see how big this is. But actually as a tank, it's not too bad.
No, it looked. As soon as you cut the sleeves off, I like the way that looked. I wonder if you could use the bottom of the sleeve and use it as trim on the neckline and maybe make a V-neck out of it.
All right, let's see how much there is.
Somebody suggested that.
So this is nicely finished here as well, actually. I was kind of impressed by that. I like the idea of cutting it down the front, but you're thinking taking this and using it as a V-neck?
Yeah, you could use it as edging, or you could use it on the sleeve, even as on the armhole as edging, probably. You
I
have
don't
enough
think
of
there's
it.
enough.
No, it's probably not enough.
That'd be like a mini sleeve.
Mm-hmm.
All right, so I made it this far. I think what I'm going to do, I think I have one of these sleeves. I'll have to look for it. I'm going to play with some ideas. First of all, either this is going to have to come in or this needs to be a little tighter. So this is tighter on your waist and then this kind of is, a little more flowy instead of it just being a box. I just love this fabric. I have some silver faux leather. I could really jump this thing up like a biker jacket or something. I don't know. That might be a little out there. So that's where I'm at.
Well, it's one of those things that once you get started, then you just start laying other things on top of it and see. You could, if you wanted to, because that fabric is so kind of like rich looking, you could glitz that up if you wanted to and add, maybe even add some of your lace and then maybe put some beading or something like that and turn, and wear it under a jacket. So maybe not even really think about, just turn under those raw edges and, finish them and turn them under and hem them. And then maybe like really make kind of the, the front, the focal point.
That's a good idea. And then if I'm running around before I go live, it won't matter because I can take my jacket off and I'll still be nice and comfortable. Brilliant, Joanne. So while you're on live showing your things, I'm going to go look for this set of sleeves I just finished embroidering and they might match this. I'm not sure.
Aha, okay.
All right, so that's where I'm at. I'll make sure I watch everybody's votes too before we get to the end. Everyone's saying use the sleeve as a cowl. Oh yeah, that's a good idea. Oh, except I don't think it's wide enough, Phyllis. Unless I just, I know where you're going with this, Phyllis. Oops, wrong camera. You mean like maybe, I could attach the back sleeves to the neckline and make that the center back, kind of like the shirt that I'm wearing now. And then have this go around to the front and maybe put like a button.
Ooh, I like that idea. Yeah.
I think I'm going to have to take this to the dress form. You didn't know this was going to be such a creative hour, did you, Joanne?
That's okay. I love it. It's fun. It's fun to see something shape together like that. Okay.
All right. Looks a little better on here. You can kind of see the image. So, Phyllis, I love that idea. So I could actually take this, maybe like that. Although it kind of looks like somebody's arm is around me. Oh, gosh.
Somebody else had an idea. Francis said, how about a mesh sleeve and then adding the cuffs onto the mesh sleeve?
I love that idea.
I love that idea too.
Okay, so here's one.
You're going to wish you had 10 of those.
I know. I would like the collar and the sleeves now. You could do this collar maybe a little bit asymmetrical.
Yep. A couple people are talking about twisting it.
Oh, yeah. See, you get the whole creative brother sewing team involved.
Those ideas just keep flowing in.
Well, I kind of like that. If I had like just a huge button, although that's what you'd stare at is the button. All right, it's getting there. I'll look for those sleeves while you show your things, and then I'll bring those out at the end.
Okay.
Arnell says she loves it twisted. Okay, I'll keep playing with it. It's so much better without those sleeves. Isn't it amazing? And you know, my mom and I were talking about this just the other day because she's been going through her closet, you know, for spring. We all do that. And do you know, Joanne, since it's been almost a year since this whole COVID thing started, so it's been almost a year since we started these daily live shows. Well, it was daily for months. And my closet at home has a whole row of blouses and sweaters and all these things that I wore when I was traveling. I mean, it was like I literally would wash them, hang them back up, and they go right back in the suitcase. I went through my closet yesterday. I think I've worn 2 of the outfits in that entire closet since last March.
I know. I was gonna pull out a blouse this morning, and it was all wrinkled. It was pressed when I put it away, but it got all wrinkled because everything's just been like stuffed in there. Nothing's moving, you know?
Yeah, I agree. So something like this, to be able to refashion, I'm taking a whole different look at some of these things that I know I'm probably never going to wear again. I mean, not that I'm never going to travel, but my wardrobe has completely changed over the last year, and I don't foresee it going back.
Yep. It's, you know, it's crazy. It's really crazy how you've adjusted to a lot of different things. But sewing has kept us all sane, hasn't it?
It definitely has.
Yeah, I'm sure everybody. Well, you got some great ideas here, though. You go back and read your comments. You're not gonna have any trouble figuring out what you're gonna do with that sweater.
I know.
You're gonna have all kinds of
the
ideas.
collar looks too thick. Now I could cut that sleeve open and just use the fabric. So that's what I'm thinking. Definitely do. And I love the idea of the mesh sleeves with the cuff at the bottom. That's kind of like the Bella. I'll play with that a little bit. So Joanne, I got it for all of those wondering, what in the heck, how do you sew with this foot? I'm bringing this up because this is, you have such great tips for sewing machine feet and how to use them, where to use them. And sometimes we'll even be here and we'll be talking. I'll be talking with some friends and they'll say, I didn't even know you could buy extra feet for my machine. I thought you could only have what it came with. And that's so not true. So,
well, you know, I like to say there's a tool for every task, and just like, you know, you have tools in a tool, you know, tool drawer or tool room or a tool chest, whatever, you know, everything has its plan and its purpose, and it's the same thing with our sewing tools. That, you know, every different accessory that you can buy has a real dedicated task, but there's lots of other different ways to use it. So that particular foot, it's now I'm forgetting the exact name of it, but I think it's called the stitch guide foot. There may be some people on here that recognize it from a while ago, and it is a foot that came with a machine a few generations ago, like the Quattro, and it had special markings on it so that it could coordinate with an automatic stitching effect on that particular model. And, you know, it worked really good. What it did, it allowed you to sew like in a straight line without really having to handle the fabric. But it sewed very slowly when it did that. And so, you know, sometimes you sacrifice slow for accuracy. But that foot has been around before that and after it. The only difference with that particular one is it had red lines in the grooves of the foot. So there's 2 available. You can get the one with the red lines, or you can get the plain one. So they both work the exact same way. What I like to show on the bottom there is that foot, the stitch guide foot, is essentially the same on the bottom as the J foot, which that's the upside down version of the J foot on the one side with the black button, and then that's the stitch guide foot on the left. And you know, again, it's all the little things that are so important. I wonder how many people out here today that are, you know, with us have experienced a time when they were sewing and they felt like their fabric just wasn't being grabbed as it was being fed through the machine. And I know a lot of people will put on a clear foot because it gives you great visibility, but they may not realize that when you have that clear foot on the bottom of that clear foot is a big open channel, as opposed to the 2 feet that we just showed there they both have a very flat bottom, and they have just enough of an opening there for a zigzag stitch to go underneath. So that's what you want when you need really good contact with your fabric. If you're sewing lightweight fabrics, you absolutely need the flattest foot possible, or things kind of slide around a little bit. So that's why I turned both of those upside down, if you're wondering what that crazy idea was all about, so that you could see that they're mostly flat. And the flatter the foot is, the more contact it's going to have with your fabric. So it's going to help grip it and grab it. But if you go to that,
by the way, Joanne, when you're talking about that, I'll bet you a lot of people probably don't even think about what's at the bottom of their foot, and that really makes sense, though. And so now people will be like, the light bulb will go on. Oh yeah, my fabric's not gripping. It
is just like any kind of a tool. It was designed for a specific purpose. So when you look at it, well, why does it have a black button on the side? Well, that particular one, that black button is designed for you to be able to press that button in when you're going over, a hump of a fabric or some thickness. It works even at the beginning if you're sewing something that's thick at the beginning, because it levels it out. It's a leveling, feature. But if you don't know what it is, you don't know how to use it, and you're just kind of like you're wasting what it does. But if you look at that, so if you look real close, you can see that the foot is divided up into lines that are 2 millimeters apart. So if you're sewing a regular seam, you can find out what line on that foot would give you the width for your seam allowance, and you just simply line up the raw edge of your fabric along that line. So, if you're sewing in millimeters, that's fine, but if you need to convert it to inches, just take a ruler and see where that lines up at. I like to use it for top stitching and edge stitching. So we did a project on the brother-sponsored It's So Easy TV show a while back, where I did what I call channel stitching, which is just really close, straight lines of stitching that are lined up perfectly with one another. And when you think about it, how would you do that? Well, you could draw lines on your fabric. And if you draw lines on your fabric and you try to sew on those lines, I would just about guarantee you're going to go a little cockeyed somewhere or another.
Yeah.
Years ago, when I used to teach beginning sewing, I used to, kind of marvel at how difficult it was, and we were all there at one point, to sew straight. Now, we've been sewing straight for so long that we just do it naturally. But a lot of people, if they're taught to sew by stitching along a drawn line, it somehow messes up with your eyes, the motion of going forward and the needle going up and down, and you trying to kind of like coordinate all that just kind of doesn't mesh in your mind. But if you sew with some sort of an edge guide, even if you put tape on the machine or a Post-it note, or we've got edge guides, we've got seam guides, all those different things. You're not watching the needle hit the line and try to follow that. You're following that edge guide, and it just gives you just such a much easier way to do that. So that foot basically has edge guides built in 2 millimeter increments all across that foot. And all you need to do is line that up with the edge of your fabric or another line of stitching. And when you stitch, you just watch that line and where it's lined up, and don't even look at the needle. Once you've got it lined up where want that to be, don't even look at the needle. So there you can see 1/4 inch or 3/8, 3/8 inch. You could just take your ruler. By the way, that ruler, if you don't have one of those, you got to get to your brother dealer and ask him for one. That is the special ruler that's made by Brother. It's flexible, it's clear, and it's a center guide ruler. So if you're ever are you looking for yours?
Yeah, I
should have grabbed mine. I didn't think, but you can get a pretty good picture of it. That is definitely something you want to add. In fact, I would add 2 or 3 of them, so that if you're looking for one, you know where the other one. If you misplace it, you know where the one is.
Joanne, there was one question that popped up here, and I'm just going to come up here with you on here, because you showed both of those feet, and a couple people said they were making a few comments. And so I have to do a visual for this because I did this weekend in class, and you and I both have talked about this before. This is like one of the biggest aha moments when you're talking about feet. Now, this is not this is the other foot. Someone just said, what is that black button that's on there?
Yep.
And this is the best thing ever. I remember when June Mellinger told me about this, and I had been sewing forever. And one day she said, push that button in. And I was like, what for? And she showed me. I thought, oh my gosh. So for all of you that have no idea what the black button is for, when you're going over thick pieces of fabric, if your foot is not level, like Joanne was mentioning, if your fabric isn't running through, if your foot's not level, you could easily end up with skip stitches. And for those of you who know, I love to sew jeans, so I'm always going over heavy, bulky areas. So what happens is when you get to a certain area, you're stitching, lift up your presser foot, which will lift it up to here, push in that black button, put your presser foot back down, and it will level your foot out. So instead of it sewing here, instead of it sewing like this, when the button is pushed in, it will level the foot out, it will stitch, and when it gets past that hump, it goes back down, the button pops out again.
Yep,
So
it's all automatic.
Is a lifesaver,
It locks it in place is what it does. It locks it so it stays flat, because if that toe tips up when it's going over a bump or a hump or a thickness, it's the same theory that we were talking about a little while ago. The flatness of the foot loses contact. And now how can your fabric feed forward the feed dogs can't grab it if it doesn't have contact. So when that foot's tilted up, it loses contact. When you push it down and push that button in, it locks it in place so it stays nice and tight.
Which is such a big difference. So if you've ever gone over, say you're having a pair of pants, you're sewing jeans, you're sewing a bag, and you're getting to a thick area, and you get all these itsy bitsy stitches together, and it's not nice and even like the rest. That's one. Two, you go over a hump and you've got like your stitches are all like this long, and all of a sudden you got one that's this long because it didn't capture, and you end up with one huge skip stitch, I would call it. All of those things would be solved with that one easy little button, and that's
it's a built-in hump jumper, just like Karina said.
Yeah, definitely. Okay, I had to bring that up because I saw that question, and I know you just showed that. So back to the ruler. I don't even know where my ruler is, so I
love that ruler. I use that ruler like constantly. It's because again, it measures from the center out. So if you're trying to measure, let's say you want to do embroidery on a t-shirt or sweatshirt or towel or something like that. You just mark the center and then put your ruler in there, and then you can mark over whatever distance you want, your marking point to be. And it, like I said, it's flexible, so you can even use it to measure shapes and necklines and things like that, because it moves. It does, it's a really great ruler. Just one of those little things you got to have.
Laura, do you raise the presser foot first? Yes. So you raise the back of your presser foot up because your foot has to go level, then push the button in. And then when you put it back down, you'll notice that it locks your foot in straight.
And a lot of times you can just tilt the foot, just like I use my fingers and just tilt it and then lock it in place. The other really cool thing about that button is if it doesn't need to lock, it won't. So if you're not, it needs enough of a ridge for it to tilt that it needs to be locked down. If there's not that much of it to tilt up, then it won't lock. And then when you're done, it automatically unlocks, pops right out, and you're good to go.
Yep. Sounds good.
It's good too. Like I use it a lot of times if I'm doing binding on something, and you've bound one edge, and so you've got the thickness from the binding, and then when you start on the second edge, you're starting off at a thick spot, so you can use it. You can use it there too. Yeah, I saw a couple questions on my jacket. Can I just talk just a little bit about what I'm wearing?
Oh yeah, I'm going to bring you up so I'm going to look for my sleeves. Okay.
Typical of our conversations, we're going to bounce, right? Because everybody's asking different things that are kind of causing us to bounce around. So this is one of those things that I made a while ago, and I love it so much that I just keep wearing it because I love it. Number one, I love any kind of jean jacket style. The yokes are always just absolutely ripe for some type of embellishment. So I've got a matching design on the back. These were built-in designs. I'm thinking they might have been in the Dream Machine. But they're very, common kind of design. So you can find something that would be similar. And because it was a color that I don't normally wear, I don't have a whole lot to go with this. So I thought, well, I'll just add some extra embellishment to the collar. So I just bought some washable fringy beady stuff and just top stitch that to the edge. But the really cool part is on the back. So I'm going to get up. I'm going to turn around here. Hopefully you can see. You can see that back.
Cool, Joanne.
Once again, some of you, I don't have anything on underneath this, so I can't take it off to show you it. But that was another thing that was built into one of our brother machines. It was from the print and stitch, where you could print that image on fabric and then embroider the coordinating design over it, and I have just a really unique embellished item. So. You'll still find some different things like that. That we could cover that in another whole different day, because even if you don't have a design that's specifically made for that, you can print on fabric and then add embroidery on top of it. And with a lot of the features that we have for perfect placement, you can add. I've done where I took like a photograph of a beautiful group of flowers in a garden, and then added an embroidered butterfly on top.
Oh.
That would be a fun. We should do that someday on the show.
That sounds like a great plan. How about next time you come on? Let's do that.
Okay, sounds good.
I won't put you on the spot, especially if you can't take your jacket off. That might be a wardrobe.
I'll be more prepared next time.
Okay, so here you go. How's this?
So, and then the foot. Let me just answer a couple questions that came through on the foot. That foot. If it came with your machine, it's because your machine is, again, a few generations ago, so you may have it. Otherwise, I don't believe I've seen that foot included in. I don't believe I've seen it included in any other models than the Quattro from a while ago. So it would be an extra foot that you would purchase, and I highly recommend it. Highly recommend it. It is one of those feet that once you understand what it will do for you, you will reach for it again and again and again.
I love that.
And you could also use it in combination with, so you can see there I did a welt seam, and I just used it so that I could stitch a perfect distance from that turned under edge of the seam allowance. It gives you accuracy. And anytime you can have your stitches just look perfect, it makes you look like you are really good. And again, what it really is all about using the right tools. So definitely check out that foot. And we have a link in the blog.
Right down below. You can find blog.brothersews.com. If you look right down below, that's where you'll click to find this on the blog. Now, by the way, the blog will be moving to a new location, but don't stress, you'll still be able to find it. But I believe from March 8th until the 20th, you might not find anything on the blog because they're moving all the content to a better, more improved website. So
Great.
Just FYI, go there now and get all this, because in about a week, you're going to have to just wait patiently.
Oh, here comes the cat. Now, Deanna's saying that came with the Dream Machine and the Luminaire. I might stand corrected on that, but I have to tell you what happens with me, and I apologize for this, but when I have machines and I still have machines and I get a different one, I still keep all the feet. And so they kind of tend to, they get mixed together, because I will readily admit to you, I do not keep them all in the nice little box that they came in. I have a bag that has zippered pockets in it. And that's where I organize all my feet, because I have so many of them that there's no way they would all fit. I have, so many extra ones. So they do tend to get a little bit mixed up. But let me just give you one really quick tip on that. If you ever want to know what came with your machine, all you need to do is either find your manual or pull up the manual. You can get all the manuals online at brothersews.com. And within the first few pages of the manual, it will list every single thing that came standard with your machine. Okay? It's also good to know if you're ever trading your machine in and you're heading over to your brother dealer because you want to move up to the next model, you can go through and see everything that needs to be packed when you take that machine back.
That's a good tip. I'm bringing this back up. So you guys, some people are asking the name of the foot. It's the stitch guide foot.
Stitch guide foot. And I believe I have a link in there directly to the foot so that you can find it on the Brother website.
Oh, perfect. And yeah, I don't think mine came with the luminaire, but at the same time, mine again is, right before they go onto the floor. So it's like basically been moved around. So you never know what, I always have to get the manual to check, was this supposed to be with it or was this from my last machine? Same with you, but that's part of, when we're brand ambassadors and we're testing machines and working on machines and getting videos and blogs done. You just never know. It's about sharing.
Yeah, and it was, let's see, somebody in here had a great idea. I missed the name, though, real quick because the comment flew by, but she keeps her feet in a tackle box, I think she said.
Oh, yes. I do that. I have a couple old machines down in the basement. One's a commercial industrial machine. And so the feet were a little bit different on that. So I did the same thing, put it in the tackle box. Well, I haven't decided if Wynn took my crafting boxes for his tackle or I'm taking his tackle boxes for my sewing. But either way, they're about the same. Just depends what store do you go to, which one's more expensive. But that's a great thing for feet because I use the P-Touch and labeled each one. And then if it had any part of a little, sometimes they come with an itsy bitsy booklet, with some tips, and I stick that in there too.
Yep. It pays to have them all in one spot. But again, I'm a little guilty of not because, well, that's the other thing. When we would do the brother sponsored It's So Easy TV show, you would take a lot of stuff with you because it was just easier. I mean, they had a lot there, but it was easier to bring your own. And then so things get they get scattered a little different places.
Definitely. Lorraine has a great idea. She put hers in ice cube trays. As long as you don't put it in the freezer, you're good, Lorraine, right?
Lots of good ideas here. Definitely. Lots of good ideas.
So, hey, Joanne, let's look at that embroidery design of the month, which is super cute. Bring this up.
So, and I'll tell you lately, because I think somebody asked what foot. I try to, because I'm doing blogs that I want to help everybody out there, no matter what machine they have, because, we all start somewhere and you might be starting with a 4x4, with embroidery and then moving up to something else. Naturally I have the, great advantage of being able to work with the top of the line with the luminaire, but I do a lot of projects on the Brother NS 1750D as well, which is a 4x4 machine, sewing and embroidery combo. And so a lot of the pictures, and I'll usually say in the blog what machine it was used on, but it just goes to show you that, a lot of these things, like you can learn a lot on the machines that have, a little less hoop size. And then somewhere down the line, you'll apply that. If you do upgrade later on, you'll apply that to the next machine. So again, that the baby bib, got it right here, just looks like a little simple thing. But in the tutorial, what I did is I talked about how to edit your letters, and I covered just a few of what my favorite tips. First of all, I will tell you, when almost all the time when I do lettering, I'm talking about the built-in lettering that is right in your machine. You've got all those great font styles. I almost always start with a size small font. I wonder how many of you out there have selected your font, programmed in your letters, and you want to, program in I love you or whatever, and you get to LO and all of a sudden it won't let you put the V or the E in because you've chosen a larger size and it's not gonna fit your hoop. Well, if you start with small, you can always go bigger because we've got the resizing key once you get into edit mode. So I tend to start small and then add, sizing after I've already programmed in my after I've programmed in my string of lettering. Does that make sense? Did I make sense?
It sure does. Although we always say with embroidery, go big or go home.
Well, that's true. That's true. But I'm just talking about, when you start off with programming in those letters, if you have a big hoop size, if you've got, giant hoops, that's a different story because you're probably not going to run out of space. But on something like this, you're not going to be working with something very big very big anyway. So that's
Joanne, what you said there though is really important, because I think a lot of people feel like if I have a lower end machine and I have a small hoop, I can't do these projects, and that's so not true. So what you said there is totally accurate. I mean, any machine you have, you could do this on. Well, embroidery machine.
exactly. And you know what too, when you really learn to use some of the different things that are built into your machine, like I said, Brother is very good at making sense with every machine that goes higher up in the line. So if you start with a 4x4 and then you do upgrade, let's say to a 6x10 or, whatever, you're going to have, already experienced some of those great features that are just going to be, those features plus more features if and when you do decide to move up with your machine. So start with small letters is that first little tip. Now, my second tip is if you're going to do arching of letters, that's always going to change the look of your letters. So different letters look different next to each other all the time. So different fonts, different capital and lowercase, all that's going to look a little bit different. So what I like to do is change the spacing before I do the arching, and it's all in the blog. I show you every step there. So I took pictures of the screen as I did it, but I like to, I'm going to use a big fancy word. I like to smush those letters closer together. If I'm going to do arching, which is the array feature, ARRAY, that feature curves your letters, either curves them up, curves them down. There's some, angled different things, but it changes the orientation of the letter. So what I do is I smush them together first. We have a smushing key there that shows you that you're pushing the letters closer together. You can also, pull them farther apart. But when you push them closer together and then you select the array feature, your lettering won't be so far apart, and it'll look a little bit more readable and a little bit more kind of what I would call normal. So that's another thing to think about. And then there's one more before I forget this one, and that is if you're going to stitch on anything that has nap. Now this is a baby bib and it's just that real low texture, but it definitely has texture. I would highly recommend that you select a block style font. So those are the real readable ones, and they're more solid in the stitching. So you'll have a better chance of that covering the nap and standing up better on the fabric. Of course, you do want to use water-soluble stabilizer when you stitch anything on napped fabric as a topper, and then you'll take that off. So I have another tip in that blog, and that is if you're using water-soluble, you could do it one of two ways. You could, I don't have a piece here with me, but you could layer an entire piece so that you're filling the whole hoop with that water soluble. Or here's a great little trick that I have a good friend named Joanne, and she is an industrial embroidering person. She does it on big machines. And she taught me this little trick. She says, if you take the water soluble piece and you just dampen it like in 4 corners and you lay it down then on your fabric, it gets a little bit sticky and it'll stay right on there and it'll stay in place. Whatever you do, you always want to make sure that your water soluble is really, really well connected to your fabric before you stitch on it. And a lot of this is from experience. I don't ever recommend doing sticky spray on water soluble, because if you've ever done that, sticky spray, the temporary sticky spray, is designed to go away just from air or ironing over it with a warm, dry iron. And if you spray it on water soluble, it has no way to go away. And even if you pull it off, it can still leave some sticky on there. So, and Esther, no, the pattern for the bib is not part of the project. I just bought a ready-made bib and did a really, really quickie by just being able to hoop it up and stitch it.
Here it is. But Joanne, I got to tell you before I even show this, I love that tip about getting the water stabilizer just a little bit wet to hold in each corner. It's like such a no-brainer, but you don't think of stuff like that. I mean, I'm always using a basting stitch to hold it in place. That's what a brilliant, your friend Jan, A plus.
Yep. She's a pro, so I've learned a lot from her, but it works. And you're going to wash it all out anyway, so it doesn't matter if it's a little bit sticky, but whatever you do, you want to make sure that that water soluble is completely, stays where it's at. You do whatever you got to do to make sure it stays where it's at, because if you walk away from the machine and your foot drags across it, it can get stuck on there. So there you see the block font. That's what I use. You can, you've got multiple fonts that are like that, but you see how some of those other ones that are fancier are thinner, and the thinner it is, the more the chances that it'll get buried in the nap. So it's just,
and
again,
Joanne, I wish you were here last week because I was hurrying on a project. Hurrying, I don't even know if that's a word, but I had something that I had to get finished really quick. In a rush, yeah. And so I actually chose this font here. Let's see. This one. The one right here with the kind of like the pretty A and the B and the C.
Yeah, that's one of my favorite fonts. It's beautiful.
Oh, I go to it every single time. I love that one. But I was putting this on a North Face, like a no affiliation with Brother. Sorry about that. But the jacket, right? And I wasn't even thinking. And I practiced first. It looked great. And then I went to put it on there. And sure enough, you couldn't even hardly see it. But you know what? It worked for one jacket. But I had to change the rest of them to the blockier font because it gets embedded in that fleece. It's not even a fleece. It's like it's just a different type of jacket, with some play in it. That was not a good choice.
You're gonna lose part of your letters if you use any of those detailed ones on fuzzy fabric.
Yeah, yep. Definitely. So here's the rest.
And Sharon's asking, was that an applique? It is not an applique. It's an embroidery design. It's an embroidery design, but it's got that solid fill all around the edge. So you could actually make an applique out of that. That would work if you wanted to do that. Because these bibs, somebody else must have got the same kind of bib. They do have like a plastic in the middle, so you're stitching through the plastic. But hey, whatever. The whole point is it's cute when it's done.
I love this. Your instructions are always so easy to follow too.
And Laura's asking about what you put on the back. And actually, I've done several baby projects that'll be on the Brother blog this month. And maybe we'll talk about another one when we're back on again. But what I usually do is if it's going to touch the skin, and hang on to that picture for a minute because I want to talk about that tip too. But if it's going to touch the skin, even on an adult, I will cover it once I'll stabilize it like I would normally, and I've got cutaway stabilizer on this one because it's a pretty dense design. I want to have that real stable. But afterwards, after I trim it, I will take a piece of fusible tricot interfacing. I know you use that a lot. You have that in your store, in your online store, and fuse a patch of that over the back. So that'll stay. If you fuse that, that'll stay there and you won't have any trouble with, any kind of scratching and any kind of itching.
And that's also, even if when I was doing those little onesies for my sister's twins when they were little, I would always put some of that fusible interfacing on the back. So it's just soft against the skin, no
it just feels good. It feels like you're wearing a slip if you'd even do it on adult clothing. So
yeah.
That's a good.
All right, so I'm going to bring this back up. You had a tip here.
Okay, so there, there are times when you can't hoop something because it's an odd shape, or in this case, it's small. Now there are different ways you could do it, but in this particular one, I just wanted to show one idea, one way to do it, and that is to hoop your stabilizer. And I'm going to show you another way in a minute, but hoop your stabilizer, your cutaway, and then spray it with the temporary adhesive spray. Be really careful with those adhesive sprays. They're wonderful. They're one of the best things we have, to use in our embroidery repertoire. But a little bit of that is enough. If you overuse that spray, it's gonna be a mess because then it's gonna stick to your needle and all that. So be very careful and read whatever the directions are on the sticky spray itself. Most of them you need a pretty good distance of at least like 12 inches or more when you do that spray. But I know about you, but I've seen a lot of crummy looking hoops where sticky spray has gotten stuck on it and then lint has gotten stuck on it, and they can get pretty nasty looking pretty quick. So what that picture was showing is I take a piece of paper. It could be newspaper. It could be, the comics. It could be, ads that you have, or brown paper, whatever, or just leftover paper scraps that you have. And I will cut a window so that it's exposing my stabilizer, and then tape it, and then spray my sticky spray on it so that none of that spray is landing on my hoop.
That is such a great tip. And you know what we call that, if you don't, is a hot mess, because it is a hot mess.
Yep.
And it's a pain to get it off of there too.
And then I know, and there may be some products out there that are sold that are like actually made to do that, and you cover, but then they get sticky too. So the advantage of this is you crumple it up, you throw it away, and you're done with it, and you don't have a mess.
Definitely. Hey, thanks, Linda. She loves the tips. That's a great tip, Joanne.
So then another way to do this, though, and again, it's all about your tools, all about what you have available, is to use. I'll wait and see if you got what other picture. Okay, is to use one of these Wonder hoops. This is a snapping style hoop, so I'm just going to put a stabilizer in there so you can see that. And this one is designed with two sides on it. Now this is a multi-needle hoop. One side is fuzzy, so it's designed to go against fabric that would be delicate, and you would want to make sure that it's well protected and doesn't leave any kind of marks from the hoop. And then the other side is like a rubbery, and this is designed to clamp down against slippery fabrics. Some of the things that we might do that are sporting items, things like that would be a little bit slick. So this will help stick against that. But what the advantage of this is that I could put that bib in there. Just put it in over the stabilizer. And I can clamp this down. And what it means is I don't have to have the whole hoop filled with fabric. So I can, have little areas there that are open, but this clamps down really tight. You can't hear the sound effects that good, but clamps down really tight and holds that in place. So this is mounted on a different arm on the machine, but this is just another way to take advantage of what your hoop options are, and this will allow you to really hoop some things that are very very tricky and you can't get in a regular hoop. So whenever possible, I like to hoop with a regular hoop with the inner ring and the outer ring, and have all my fabric sandwiched in there together, my stabilizer in there together. But there's a time and a place, for everything, and that just doesn't work with something small like that.
I love that hoop. And by the way, I think it's like a unanimous great tip. And then it goes to the next great tip, great tip. So many great tips. And that's the best part of these live shows is you can't even plan this stuff. If we were trying to plan this, it comes when we're working on something and you guys ask a question. And that's the best part of these live shows. I'm so excited.
Yep. And Lorraine's asking, does that work on a Brother 10 needle? That hoop does. I believe within the last 2 months that I highlighted that hoop as a feature, 2-3 months. So check the Brother blog and you'll be able to get more information about that exact hoop with the link for it and everything.
Kathleen, can you use stretch thread in the bobbin? Not for that project, I wouldn't. What project are you working on, Kathleen? Give us some more information, because
let us
that's
know
more
what
of a
you're doing.
technique like ruching or.
And Arnell's asking about tape. Boy, I could go on for another 20 minutes on tape, and I won't do that. But tape, if you're taping on the bottom, if she's doing like something like an in the hoop type design, that can be really tricky, because if that tape comes off while that hoop is moving, we've seen it in events, right, Angela? You could have a real mess on your hands.
It's not good.
So sometimes some other tapes that will work a little bit better for that, like the medical plastic tearing tape. She might want to try some of that, but be very, very careful, because that could be a little tricky. And Jane's asking, no, this doesn't fit. This particular clamping style hoop is only for the multi-needle machine. So it's special for the multi-needle machines.
Yeah. All right, so that was an awesome blog. And also, did you have a free design of the month?
That's the bear.
That is it, the bear?
That is a little bear.
I missed that. I was so focused on the bib.
So it's cute. It's really cute.
You're asking, no, the bib's not included, but the bear is.
Exactly. Bibs. Now that would be. I was just trying to do something. Instead of taking the time to show how to make the bib, I wanted to take the time to show how to use all those different lettering features to, find out what's within your machine and really, make it work for you. So.
Oh, thank you. All right, so we are almost out of time, but I think I have just enough time. How are we doing? Just like a few minutes, but I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to do some preparation for my show tomorrow at 1:30. Joanne, you're more than welcome to pop in and critique my work, but I think I have a solution here, or I have an idea. So you let me know what you think. I'm going to go back here for a second.
Okay.
Look what I found. I found my mesh. Now, this embroidery does not really match this top, but I was using this actually is from my last episode of It's So Easy, where I made the Bella top. And see the mesh sleeve, which looks beautiful with this pink, doesn't it?
It's gorgeous.
Yeah, so I have some mesh, and I love your guys' idea about using one layer of the sleeve, turning it into part of a collar, and using this cuff here. So if the sleeve, picture this, if I have the sleeve full enough, and then this is the cuff at the bottom, and I make it tight on my wrist. So I'll just picture this. What do you think?
Yeah, that could work.
With
you could even make it a little bit deep, so it's kind of a dramatic cuff,
Yeah, like
maybe
that. Okay, so now I'm going to go back over to the table just to show you guys what I'm going to work on today, because there's a couple things here as far as fitting. If you decide to cut up your sweater and follow me, be warned. A couple things here. So one, I'm not going to use that exact sleeve. I'm going to see if I could find something. I'd love to tie in more silver or a darker color to make that rich silver come out. So I got to go through my stash. But here's something that you might not think of. My sleeve, when you measure around your sleeve, the sleeves are always like the thing that a lot of people have a difficult time with when they're sewing. So the sleeve, this area here, all the way around, needs to match this. This sweater was so big. Look at how low that armhole is. It might not look low to you, but that's low. Meaning that if I attach a sleeve that's fitted and it's that low, I am not going to be able to move my arms. So I can either add a very loose sleeve where this can be lower, or if I take this in, let's just fold this, you can see. If I take that in, look at how much difference that changed for where my arm's eye is going to go. Like right now, I have all this space to fill. If I take that in, then I only have that much space. I'll just have to recut it a little bit so it has a nice curve under your arm. So I'm going to take it in the sides. I'm going to cut these apart. So I might as well just cut this apart right now so you can see. And then I'm going to go through my stash before my show tomorrow at 1:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And we'll go ahead and sew this up together then. So if I leave this, I'm going to leave the bottom. Let's see, how's that sewn? Looks like that's knitted closed, so I don't want to cut that yet. But I have all this fabric here that I can use for the collar. I'm going to have to get pretty creative on here because there isn't a lot of fabric in this sleeve. Now, Joanne, didn't you mention something about doing a V-neck, maybe?
Yeah, that was somebody else's idea actually that posted on here. I thought that was but if you like, if that neck's finished nice, maybe you don't really want to mess with that. I don't know.
It is pretty. I'll have to try it on and see how tight it is on my neck first. Definitely getting rid of the sleeves is one. Taking in the side seams just a little bit. So
shape it. Yeah, give it some shape.
Yeah, adjust the shape. And I love your idea of having maybe this fitted a little bit lower. So maybe my sleeve cuff will be maybe that high. And then I'll add a mesh up a little higher. Now the question is, and Joanne, you're good at this too, what color? What color? Oops, wrong camera. What color mesh should I go for?
It's a little, I think it's a little hard to see what color that sweater really is on camera, like what the highlights in it are, but I would just, whatever you see there as the highlight, that's probably what I would pick.
It has silver metallic pieces woven through it. So it's like,
okay.
You could almost take a black fabric that would really draw it out, but that might be too stark. I got to go through my stash. I must have a piece of silver, something silver.
Yeah, I can't really see the silver from here. And maybe you know.
Let me bring this up closer. Maybe if I bring this up really close. Can you see it now?
Yeah, now I see the sparkles. Yep.
Yeah.
See, I could see that bead. I could see that sweater beaded. I could see, silver beads like really accenting that neckline and just kind of like being the focal point on there.
This might be a couple-week project. I like that idea. I do have beads. I just found I've been cleaning out my last few bins from, moving like 3 years ago. And I found quite a few more bins of beads. So I think I'm going to have to try that. I also like your idea of embroidery. And maybe I'll use some metallic thread, use some of my lace designs, and add some of that almost like an applique on there.
Yeah, that's kind of what I'm thinking. I could just see that. It just looks like it would really be pretty like that.
It's going to be an experiment. So you're going to have to come back and let me know what you think on this as I get rolling.
I saw a couple more questions roll in. Somebody wanted to see the back of the bib. So there's the back of the bib.
Yeah, let me bring you up.
You could see the stabilizer there. Now, again, this wasn't designed to be pretty on the back. It's more though, this might be one of the ones where you just put it on the baby because you want to take a cute picture. If you want to make a bib that's really a little bit more functional, or looks good on the back, then you might want to make one from scratch so that you could do all your embroidery on front and then line it and have the back covered up. That would be certainly a way to do it. Or create it as an applique and then put it on afterwards. That would work too. And then Phyllis wants to know, is there a link for the this clamping hoop? Yes, if you look at the post that I did on the Brother blog and you find that post on the actual hoop, you'll find a link for that as well. It'll give you the exact part number. So
perfect. Well, Joanne, this has been so much fun. Thank you now. Joanne was actually coming on today, but for a very short period, and then she was coming on for a longer portion the end of the month, which you're still coming on. But when Laura couldn't make it, thank you for quickly putting something together so we could fill the show.
I had a whole pile of stuff I didn't even show. That was my just in case we needed.
Just in case. Oh, this was wonderful. And I see a lot of quite a few people still saying they love your jacket. And then the other comment is silver rhinestones. I'm going to have to go through my books here and find some fun things. I'm thinking I have some yarn. I have this could be like a major creative project.
And if anybody has more questions, either, tag me or send me a message. You can find me.
Joanne, I put Joanne's website right below. Same with mine, same with Brothers. And we would love to hear from you. So this is so much fun. Brother, thank you for letting us take over your pages. And it's always something creative and fun. And no wardrobe coupons today. Fabulous. Joanne, thank you for your wonderful tips. It's always great to see you. And we will be back on. Joanne, you'll be back on at the end of the month, I believe, or the beginning of next month. Yep. I don't have my calendar right here.
We'll have more baby stuff to talk about then too. This month is my theme was baby days. So lots of baby things.
That sounds awesome. So the rest of the week, tomorrow is the live show, 1:30. I will try to find something fun to do with that sweater. We'll see. That's on my page. And then on Thursday at noon, we have, I believe, hold on a second. I got to make sure I have this right. I think we have Lewis on. Yes, at 12 o'clock. And he said he has a surprise for us. So I have no idea.
That should be interesting.
He always has something awesome and creative. So mark your calendars and be sure if you're on YouTube to subscribe to the channel. And if you're on Facebook, follow and you'll get notifications when we go live. You'll never miss a show. So everyone, thank you for watching. Joanne, thank you for your inspiration.
Good to see everybody. Happy sewing.
Happy sewing.